SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
This show is brought to you by Sledge & Company Financial LLC. I'm Taylor Sledge, founder and CEO. At Sledge & Company, we help businesses and families do better with their money. Check us out on the web at sledgecompany.com. That's sledgecompany.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man. Way past.
Welcome to the start of a new week. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for starting your day with radio on or the video stream on or the podcast on. Whatever you got going this week, on the heels of a long holiday weekend, we welcome you back in to the second week of the month of July. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. You can be part of the conversation at the C Spire text line, on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. That's the number if you want to jump in, contribute, agree, disagree. It's all good. We just want to hear from you. C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. If you're looking for game-changing technology, then you need C Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber, home internet, and business IT solutions built as tough as your defense. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. I'm Richard Cross. Got Lance Tolbert along for the ride, coming off a rare Friday in which he does not have to work.
Well, I actually did.
On Friday?
Yeah, man, I had a couple hours of stuff I had to get done for Saturday because of, the way things happen. Yeah, so I had to get in and get things programmed for the weekend.
I bet the building was pretty quiet when you came in.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty cool. The cats were hungry, out there. They were circling like buzzards.
We didn't have to come in quite as early on Friday.
Oh, no, I took my time, got to come in when I wanted to, and got a couple of hours worth of stuff.
Couldn't you have done that Thursday and just not come in on Friday?
No, some of the programming that I have to download and kind of edit and clean up just didn't arrive in time to get it all done. So, it just is what it is, and got to make sure the programs roll on Saturday and Sunday so we don't have any problems. But, yeah, nothing to it. I had a great time.
You may have to check your email also. Apparently the first version of the show that I sent you last night and then tried to resend it this morning, just a big old blank document.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's what happens. Sometimes when you have a vacay, it takes a little time to get back in the swing of stuff. We got this, though.
I don't know what happened on that one. I really don't. But I think we're all squared away now.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
And we are glad to be with you. You can join us. Sometimes this is one of those Mondays that's a little hard to get going, right? You had Friday off, and then Saturday and Sunday, and some of you took an extra day or two off to make it a really long weekend and come back from the holidays, and you're kind of in no man's land right now, right? You've gotten through the fort. Now maybe you've got a family vacation that's coming up, but you're at that spot where there's not a whole lot of summer left in terms of school-age kids. So if you've got younger ones, kind of counting the days in a good way, I would think. I don't know, maybe you're counting the days and you're ready for them to go back. If it's if you're waiting for college football, you're absolutely in that period where it's like, well, what do we do now? You just got to wait because you got about 3.5 weeks until camp starts, and then a month after that until games start. So pretty hot outside. Kind of into the dog days just a little bit. Maybe it's a chance to spend a lot of time around the grill. Get that yard just right. Lance going to get the yard just right.
Had it just right. Got it done yesterday. That was the Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not the biggest yard, but definitely got to take a little pride in it and make it look good. And evened up, and everything pruned and looking good for the summer. But it's great because honestly, we haven't had to use the sprinklers yet. I haven't really had to. I've had to water some flowers with the hose, but I hadn't had to turn on sprinklers and soak everything. I think we've got some good nutrients in the soil at this point from the monsoons that we had. But I bet we'll have to start turning sprinklers on before you know it.
I turned mine on yesterday.
Yeah.
And the ground the plants seemed to be thankful for it. Yeah. The hydrangea had been the ones that are getting too much sun anyway. They were sad looking. Sad looking.
It's funny how they perk up so quickly.
Oh man. It really is. They're like, oh, you love me. Thanks for the water. I'll be pretty for you again. But it's funny though. So I was gone for a week or 9 days or whatever from our house, and I got home and I'm like, man, I knew the yard was going to need to be mowed, so I got that done yesterday. But it was kind of cool to see the growth on shrubs and flowers and whatever else. But the heat appears to be settling in South Haven. You've got scattered thunderstorms this morning, potentially, then partly cloudy later in the day. High of 92 there in DeSoto County. Winds out of the west-southwest at 5 to 10. About a 40% chance of rain. Duck Hill, some sunshine and some clouds. It's going to be hot there today. 96 degrees in Duck Hill. Winds light and variable. Stray thunderstorm is possible. Richton, generally sunny today despite a few afternoon clouds. Stray shower, thunderstorm possible. 92 degrees. Macomb, mostly sunny early today, and then your scattered thunderstorms developing later in the day. Hot, high of 91. A 50-50 chance of rain today in Macomb. That's your forecast across the state of Mississippi. Satchel Paige was born on this day in 1906. Hall of Fame pitcher, 6-time Hall of Famer in the Negro Leagues, 2-time Major League Baseball All-Star, won the World Series in 1948 with the Cleveland then Indians. Satchel Paige from Mobile, Alabama. Also, Ringo Starr is 85 years old today, the British drummer and vocalist from the Beatles. He was the guy on Yellow Submarine. What was the deal? John Lennon just didn't show up for a practice session, and so they did Yellow Submarine without him?
I have no idea, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. He's a Ringo Starr, big peace and love activist. Good for him. Good for him. This day in 1912. One of the greatest athletes to ever live, one of the most difficult sporting events that exists. In 1912, American athlete Jim Thorpe won 4 of 5 events to win the pentathlon gold medal at the Stockholm Olympics. But because he played professional baseball, his medal was stripped a year later in 1913. Because that whole amateur thing in the Olympics that was in place for so long. You couldn't be professional and
you could be a professional lawyer. You just couldn't be a professional athlete, right?
That is correct. That rule kind of decayed over time until it has completely gone away. The 1992 Dream Team wouldn't exactly have been possible if you couldn't be a pro and compete in the Olympics as well. By the way, his gold medal was reinstated in 1982.
Rightfully so, too.
A significant day. Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Well, I mean, and he played baseball. I mean, that doesn't have a lot to do with the pentathlon, but, I can understand the rules is the rules, as they say. But, yeah, he deserved.
As they say.
Yeah.
One of the most significant days in the history of the world happened today in 1928. Sliced bread was sold for the first time by the Chillicothe Baking Company in Missouri using a machine invented by Otto Frederick Rowetter, or Rowetter, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Described as the greatest forward step in the baking industry since bread was wrapped.
It came a long way. It took to 1928 to figure that one out. A handful of years later, we're walking on the moon. So you can credit bread. Yeah. Sliced bread may have opened the door for that.
Did you just tear it before that?
I had no idea. I guess people just said, "Hey, man, try it with the spoon." No, what about the fork?
Yeah,
and then somebody was like, "Yeah, let's try this knife thing." Yeah.
Maybe you broke it.
You broke the bread.
Just broke the bread. You didn't slice the bread. On this day in 1930, the construction begins on the Boulder Dam, or the Hoover Dam, as you may know it. Concrete arch gravity dam in the Black Canyon of the Colorado River on the border between Nevada and Arizona, constructed between this day in 1930 and 1936 during the Great Depression. It was dedicated on September 30th of 1935 by FDR. Construction, the result of massive effort involving thousands of workers, cost nearly 100 lives. Bills passed by Congress during its construction referred to it as the Hoover Dam, named after President Herbert Hoover, but Franklin Delano Roosevelt instead named it the Boulder Dam. Guess he didn't like old Herbie. In 1947, Congress restored the name Hoover Dam. And on this day in 1965, Otis Redding recorded the song Respect. You know, R-E-S-P-E-C-T at Stax Studios in Memphis. It later was handed off to Aretha Franklin. Otis, that was a good move.
No, definitely, yeah.
Mornings with Richard Cross, just getting started with you. Thanks for being with us today, the 9th of July, 2025. We're back right after this.
From the Venable.
All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
That ain't Otis Redding.
No. That's Miss Aretha.
Yes, it is. Great Aretha Franklin. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Kind of a cool thing happened. You don't always think of it as a cool thing when a band breaks up, but in 1968, the British rock band Yardbirds disbanded. They were no more. So what happened? Guitarist Jimmy Page recruited new members to fill their concert commitments. The new group became Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, it was kind of legendary band there. Goodness gracious.
Well done, Jimmy. Yeah. Think you pulled some good ones together.
Eric was in that too, right? Yardbirds.
Who was?
Clapton. Wasn't he in the Yardbirds, or was he not? I can't remember.
I have no idea, but that is...
Let's see.
That would be something.
Who was the original group here? Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. Those were your original three. Yeah, I knew there was one other that I couldn't. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was the Yardbirds were amazing, man. I was trying to remember. I was like, who was it? But, yeah, Clapton, Page, and Beck were your originals. And then the bands had other members during the 60s
What
and
if Eric
68.
Clapton had gone with Jimmy Page into Led Zeppelin?
That wouldn't, I don't know. I mean, Clapton's just such a great technician of the guitar. He came and spent a lot of time picking the brains of people like Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he would have missed that, because that made great pieces of music as he kept going on. And we have such great collaborations with him in doing those things. So I don't know. I'm kind of happy in the route he went, but that is a great question. Who knows? History would have been written differently, huh?
Yeah. This day in 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor, nominated for the United States Supreme Court. She's the first female Supreme Court justice, was appointed by Ronald Reagan. By the way, as we were going to the break, I said we'll be back on this 9th day of July. Today is actually July 7th. No, you did not lose 2 days just all of a sudden out of nothing. Lance, I got this one for you. This is especially for you. I was reading through it. I was like, I don't need to include that. And I was like, nope, Lance will love this one. On this day in 1990, for the very first time, the three tenors performed together.
Yeah, I remember those guys.
First concert in which Placido Domingo, Jose Carreras, and Luciano Pavarotti were together at the Baths of Caracalla in Rome, recording became the world's best-selling classical record.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could never remember the other guy, but, Domingo and Pavarotti. Whoa,
Carreras is very much the leftover of the three. Absolutely is.
Wow, cool, though. Hey, there was one really interesting thing that happened in 1937 on this day. The game of Marco Polo was invented as the Chinese and the Marco Polo.
Was it a swimming pool game then?
Well, I'll tell you, the Chinese and the Japanese troops were clashing near Marco Polo Bridge outside Beijing. This was the precursor to the Second Sino-Japanese War. But after a game of Marco Polo in the river, they couldn't determine a winner, so they ended up having a war. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, that did happen on this day.
I was just gonna let you go on it. I just was gonna let you go.
Chinese and Japanese troops, they clashed today. But the Marco Polo, that was the start of the Sino-Japanese War #2. But I found that the Marco Polo Bridge, they could have just had a little, a pool party maybe instead of a war.
There were a lot of mixed emotions for race fans on this day in 2001. In his first appearance at Daytona since the death of his father, Dale Earnhardt Sr., Jr. won the Pepsi 700. And he did so in dramatic fashion, coming from 7th place with just 9 laps remaining to beat his teammate Michael Waltrip in the race.
And who is?
Can you imagine the emotional release after that?
No, I mean, goodness, the Earnhardt deal that came out, the documentary, I was blown away at how well it was done, and I, you kind of lose. I lost a little touch with NASCAR after Dale died, I think, and I didn't pay as much attention.
A lot of people did.
And but yeah, having Dale Jr. win it, and then with the teammate Michael Waltrip, a guy that you just couldn't do anything but like, really. I mean, such a nice guy. And, but it always that relationship, the teaming, and all that always go back to Talladega Nights. The Ricky Bobby and his boy. But tag teaming and winning, and it works in NASCAR. It does. Those teams have a tendency to, as the game has moved on, the sport. You've seen that be a bigger piece of that.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that's huge. I always loved Dale Jr. too. You knew he had so much pressure on him, and the other two as well, the sister and the brother. I know the sister really wanted to be a racer and did well in the dirt tracks and a couple of things. But can you imagine growing up in the shadow of Dale Earnhardt Sr.? Goodness.
Ooh. When you are a namesake and a driver and all the above, and say it worked out okay for Junior. Let's grab some news headlines this morning. President Donald Trump, we know, on Friday signed his package of tax breaks and spending cuts into law in front of 4th of July picnickers at the White House, flanked by Republican legislators and members of his cabinet. He signed the multi-trillion-dollar legislation at a desk on the White House driveway. It's not there normally. They brought it out specifically for this. Then he banged a gavel on the desk, a gavel that was gifted to him by Speaker Mike Johnson. It's the one that he used in the bill's final passage on Thursday against odds that at times seemed improbable. Trump achieved his goal. He set that imaginary July 4th deadline because that is when he wanted to celebrate. Just sitting around one night, you know what? Get the tax bill done by the 4th of July. I'll sign it that day. We'll celebrate the birthday of the United States of America. We'll kick off a year-long celebration for the 250th. It'll be a great way to bring it in. And he did. Fighter jets, B-2 stealth bombers streaking through the sky over the annual White House 4th of July picnic. And, of course, you have all the celebration out on the Washington Mall. Just a really spectacular day. Did you see any good fireworks this weekend?
Yeah, I sat out, and, in the neighborhood, they were blowing up nicely. Yeah, I didn't really go do anything extraordinary. Late Saturday night, though, it was about 9 o'clock. They started blowing up again, so started seeing the cop cars coming around. It was like, all right, yeah. So no, I didn't get into the fun, but there was one. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. We were way out in the country and gone and gotten a bunch of big fireworks, and there was a professional type of setup. And I remember having the side by side pulled back on a hill back from underneath this pavilion where all of the people were. I was being antisocial for some reason, and just really, I guess, just enjoying the panoramic of everything going on.
Yeah,
and one of those things that shoots up, I don't know what you call it. It wasn't like a bottle rocket. It was one that goes up, it's big ones and explodes and, has all the raining stuff. Well, something must have come down and landed and lit something, and it fired off and went into the bag and box of all the fireworks. And all of these people were standing around, and all of a sudden that thing took off and blew up, and it looked like a war was going on. I'm just sitting back like, I'm glad I'm not in the middle of that. People are running left and right, coming at it. Nobody got hit with anything. And the other side of that, there was like a 500-gallon propane tank that was not – yeah, so I'm thinking this could get interesting really fast. Thank God it didn't. But since then, I've kind of stood back from the fireworks and just kind of enjoyed the panoramic of the chaos ensuing. But and understanding that sometimes bad things happen. So I haven't heard of anybody that blew off a finger or had an event like that. I hope it was safe for everybody. But, somewhere out there was an oopsie daisy. There was.
Probably a pretty good night to listen to a scanner. Yeah, if you got one, you want to listen to a scanner, probably entertaining. Glendora, Mississippi, a derailment and fire involving a Canadian National Railway train occurred on Saturday, with the hazardous materials involved leading to the evacuation of a couple hundred residents. Clarksdale Press-Register reporting that the Tallahatchie County Emergency Management Agency said 13 cars had derailed, with a tank car carrying benzene catching fire. Canadian National spokeswoman said the derailment occurred in the afternoon on Saturday. No injuries have been reported. Departments from throughout Tallahatchie County were fighting the fire. As of 9 o'clock on Saturday night, the evacuation order was still in place. According to the CDC, benzene, if inhaled, can cause dizziness, headaches, tremors, confusion, and at very high levels, death. If you come into physical contact with the chemical, you got to take your clothes off and wash thoroughly and try to get medical care as quickly as possible. It's an element in gasoline. It's also used to make detergents, drugs, dyes, some lubricants, pesticides, and rubber. Derailment occurring about 100 miles south of Memphis, 120 miles north of Jackson on Canadian National's Yazoo subdivision. Derailment led to the cancellation of the city of New Orleans in both directions on Saturday. Good to be with you this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, just getting started. SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV, and of course on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations. We will have your morning sports update when we come back. MRC on SuperTalk.
Watch how strange camp people, little red roosters on the prowl.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Well, I ain't superstitious, but a black cat is crossing my train. Well, I ain't superstitious.
That train derailment in Tallahatchie was one of 3 that happened over the weekend in Mississippi. I don't remember catching a news cycle where we're like, oh, yeah, there were 3 trail derailments.
No.
And it's not like they were all in the same area either. You had the Tallahatchie County derailment on Saturday the 5th. Petal had a derailment on Saturday the 5th. Late afternoon, a train carrying cooking oil came off the tracks with 2 tanker cars affected, one fully derailed, one partially. You had roads around Chapel Hill Road and Highway 11 that were closed for a little while. And then on Sunday, a derailment near Sardis involving tanker cars, but no fire or injuries reported from that one.
So I ain't getting on no train.
No. Had a listener on the C Spire text line sent me the link to those other 2 stories, so I appreciate that very much. Very, very much. All right, it's time for your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at Pearl River Resort, but don't stop there. You want to visit Pearl River Resort in person, all kinds of great stuff. Man, it would have been a good weekend to be at Pearl River Resort. Talked with some of their crew over the weekend, and they were drinking water out of a fire hose this weekend, Lance. They had it going. the water park and the golf course and inside Silver Star and the Golden Moon, and just a lot of cool stuff going on. It doesn't have to be a special weekend, though, for you to hang out at Pearl River Resort. They are your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment, pearlriverresort.com.
I'll say I worked in the entertainment of hospitality business, bartending a bit and the weddings. And it's always amazing to watch a team come together and really embrace those huge weekends. You work football weekends or whatever it may be. But July 4th at Pearl River Resort, I imagine, like you said, was absolutely lit. And I know that they look forward to that. That's the great thing. That's why you go to those places, because you got people there that like literally want you to be there, want to drink from the fire hose, and you're going to have a blast. So I would just have a lot of respect for the folks that give up their holidays to give you a great one. So thank you guys that are out there, all the workers in the hotels and the hospitality and the food service and all of the places that people go. Thank y'all very much.
Well done. Well done. Edson Alvarez scored a tie-breaking goal in the 77th minute after a video review reversed an offside call as Mexico beat the United States 2-1 last night for its record 10th CONCACAF Gold Cup title.
CONCACAF.
Chris Richards put the United States ahead in the 4th minute of the match, heading in a Sebastian Verhalter free kick for the second time in the tournament, but Raul Jimenez tied the score in the 27th with his third goal of the Gold Cup. They played it in Houston at NRG Stadium. Last time I checked, Houston was in the United States, but a sellout crowd of 70,925 was about 70% pro-Mexico. They booed the United States players when they walked out for pregame warm-ups.
Ooh.
Home field advantage, my Heine. Mexico dominated 60% possession in the game. They had 12 corner kicks, none for the Americans. It was the last competitive match for both the U.S. and Mexico before co-hosting next year's World Cup with Canada. The U.S. has 7 Gold Cup titles, none since 21. They used the starting line. Whoa, hold on a second. We didn't really lose to Mexico. That was our B team. Used a starting lineup with only a handful of players currently projected to be World Cup starters, missing regulars due to vacation, injuries in the Club World Cup.
Vacation, I love it. Mauricio was like, man, my boys don't even want to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not the World Cup. No, come on. You can't take a vacation.
So did they actually lose?
Yeah, good question.
I have I'm not always the funniest guy. I've never been like the stand-up comic, but I thought I had a good one last night. I walked into El Agave in Oxford to pick up dinner.
I miss El Agave. Goodness gracious.
Great spot. Yes. It was, I just sat down at the bar, placed a carry-out order. It's kind of my routine there. And I walked in, and there were like 8 guys staring at the TV, back to the bar, back to the door as I walked in. Nobody even acknowledged that I was there. It's because you got a big U.S. Gold Cup game going on.
The big game, yeah.
So I walk in, and I'm sitting down and go, hey, boys, who we cheering for? They kind of turned and looked at me like I had.
Serious?
Like,
who is this guy? Who is this guy?
Yeah. Oh, it was fun.
Hey, man, I'm 6'4", and lived down there for a little while, and there's not a lot of sports that, I had a lot of money to play while I was down there. I mean, they would be like, hey, did you play golf or tennis or anything when you were down? Like, no, I didn't go to a country club. But I did get to play indoor soccer, and being a foot taller than everybody was extremely challenging. But, man, I will tell you what, that was some fast-paced stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody plays soccer in Mexico. Everybody. I mean, it is something else, man. Now, baseball is extremely respected, but soccer is the blood of that country. And I learned a lot about, how to get beat in soccer, about guys that you think, hey, this guy can't play. A little dude looks like he just came out of the lawyer, out of some kind of hearing, and then he just comes out there and runs circles around like, man, this is something. So, I was still pretty athletic. I just quit playing baseball, so.
There you go.
Yeah, man, those dudes can fly.
Scores from the big leagues yesterday. Orioles over the Braves 2-1. Red Sox beat the Nats 6-4. Phillies 3-1 over the Reds. Blue Jays beat the Angels 3-2. Tigers over the Guardians. That's Detroit and Cleveland 7-2. Milwaukee Brewers 3-1 over the Miami Marlins. Yankees beat the Mets 6-4 in the Subway Series. It was the Rays 7-5 over the Twins in 10 innings. Rays playing really good baseball right now. Rockies beat the White Sox. That's two bad teams. Astros 5-1 over the Dodgers, two of the best records in all of baseball, going at it out at Chavez Ravine. Royals 4-0 over the Diamondbacks. Mariners beat the Pirates 1-0. Mariners 48-42.
I was the other day. I was talking about Skeens. I mean, his record with the ERA. The Pirates just can't hit. That's their problem. They can pitch it, buddy.
No, they're about 25 games below 500 right now. Cubs beat the Cardinals 11-0. Don't look now. Here come the Cubbies. Padres leading it. They beat the Rangers 4-1 last night. Giants over the homeless Oakland Athletics 6-2 the final. And that brings us to the standings. I give you these. We're certainly not doing them every day, but just, hey, we're a week away from the All-Star break. What's it look like? Well, the New York Yankees have been playing like petrified poo as of late.
Blue Jays are hot, man.
Blue Jays have won 8 in a row and 9 of their last 10. And they have taken the lead in the American League East, 3 games in front of the Yankees and the Rays. In the Central, Detroit, who has a 13.5-game lead over Minnesota.
I got the stranglehold on that one right now.
Stros lead the Mariners by 7 games out west. On the National League side of things, the Philadelphia Phillies, 1.5 in front of the Mets, 12 in front of the Marlins. The Braves are 13.5 back, 11 games below 500. Hole that they dug for themselves out of the game. The thing is, they're playing better baseball.
Yeah, I mean,
they're kind of knocking on the door a little bit, and then they decided to lose 8 of 10.
Yeah.
Cubs have a 4-game lead in the Central. Dodgers 7 games in front out west. That is your sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online, pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. That's Pearl River Resort. ceasefire text line open, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. What have we got? Somebody said it was a good game last night. It was.
It was a soccer match.
Yeah. Wild, us playing our B team. Every Gold Cup game only recognized 2 or 3 players. They're trying to figure it out. Inside a year into the World Cup in the United States.
Well, you had to get the youngsters and the B team guys warmed up too, because you never know what all you're going to. World Cup is a marathon, man. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it is. CC said it wasn't trains that only derailed this weekend. So did Elon Musk.
Ooh, well, it wouldn't be the first time in the last month. There's been some derailments between those two.
The announcement of the American Party.
American Party or America Party.
We will, I don't know if we'll do it today or not. Got a bunch coming up this morning. I got a conversation with Chris Brown, Public Service Commissioner, Northern District. That's about half an hour from right now. Drake Bassett from Palmer Home will join us. This is Palmer Home Radiothon Week. And JT Mitchell will be by a little bit later in the show as well. I have some thoughts about this America Party thing. The Republican Party, Republicans in general, on a bit of a heater right now. Go figure, the guy that helped get them there might be the one that ends up derailing it. Or did Elon Musk's influence in the election matter as much as we thought it did, or as much as we made it out to be? I don't know. Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, mslottery.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We start with Lotto America. No jackpot winner there. An estimated jackpot tonight of $2.6 million. Cash value of $1,118,000. Saturday, July 5th, numbers 8, 10, 36, 43, 45. The star ball was 9. The all-star bonus multiplier was 2. Powerball jackpot moving in the right direction. It's up to $203 million for tonight's drawing with an estimated cash value of $92.5 million. Saturday's numbers 1, 28, 34, 50, 58. The Powerball of 8 and the power play multiplier of 2.
Well, double play numbers from Saturday, July the 5th, 15, 20, 61, 63, 69, and a Powerball of 1. And Mega Millions, no jackpot winner. It's up to $70 million. You got a drawing tomorrow, Tuesday, July the 8th. You get to take home about $31.3 million if you win that one. Numbers from Friday, July the 4th, 17, 20, 24, 41, 42, Mega Ball of 24.
No jackpot winner for Mississippi Match 5, $393,000 up for grabs tonight. Sunday night's numbers 3, 6, 29, 33, and 34.
Cash 3, $500 Sunday midday numbers 531. The evening drawing 301. Cash for $5,000 midday numbers 8658. Evening 6638. Fireball of 5 and a cash pop of 9 for the midday. The evening fireball of 1 with a cash pop of 8.
Very good, very good. Last week, the lottery claims office paid out a little less than $200,000. It's time to hit them for a big lick.
Yes, they're going to get popped.
They've been easing along. We need one of those weeks where they've got to write 7 figures worth of checks. Retailers paid out about $4.7 million. More than $2 million awarded in second chance promotional drawing. 8 Mississippi Lottery players turned non-winning scratch-off tickets into real cash, collecting more than $2 million in the latest second chance promotional drawing. Topping the list, a player in Liberty scored $1 million from the Jackson scratch-off ticket. Other winners included a $500,000 payout to a player in Amory, $400,000 payout to a player in JS, $100,000 for winners in Byhalia, Biloxi, and Gulfport, and $20,000 to a player in Raymond, $5,000 for Biloxi. Now, look, I'm not going to. You're going to have to read the small print to figure it out. But my guess, Lance, is that if you were just competing against other people who lost, and you're taking your scratched-off tickets that weren't winners, your odds of winning go up.
They have to, right?
In the second chance. There's just no way you're competing against as many people. Like, if somebody's going to win the prize, and a lot of people do not submit their losing lottery tickets, feels like it's a pretty darn good chance.
Well, I mean, I'm sour if I lose, so, I mean, I'm throwing that thing away most of the time.
Exactly.
So that's a really good point.
Exactly. All right, so be sure to check it out. All winners will be notified by certified mail. You can still enter non-winning tickets for a shot in future drawings. Next Second Chance event is set for October 9th, 2025. mslottery.com/second-chance.
That's some big money in there. That was like $1.025 million right there, just in the $1 million one. I mean, that's. And they weren't little small checks. I mean, those are $500K, $400, $100K, $20K. Goodness.
$2 million and change that went out in the second chance drawing. So outstanding there. You got it locked into Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. That's your Mississippi Lottery update. Be sure to follow them online at mslottery.com. That's mslottery.com. There are, I think, 2 really big headline-grabbing stories this morning. And they are 2 very different stories. One of them is about tragedy. Obviously, you've got the flooding in Texas and the recovery efforts that are going on in Central Texas, the Hill Country, after the flash floods that have taken. I'm sure the number has been updated this morning.
I think it's 82 this morning.
Yeah, 82 as of last night, including children who were at summer camps. And there are a lot of layers to that story. And then, of course, you have the political layer of it, which is like you really didn't even wake up on Saturday morning before you had the accusations start flying and the politicizing of the event. And I don't know if that's kind of disgusting. Obviously, in this case, it was coming from the left, but it has come from the right in the past with other events that are going on. Just stop being a terrible person, like just for like 5 minutes. I don't care whether you're right or the left. So that's one story, and the other story that you get comes from the United States Department of Justice that says they have thoroughly investigated all the claims and all the evidence related to the Epstein trial, or to Epstein, and they see no evidence of bribery, no evidence of murder. It's just not there. We don't believe you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you with us to start the new week, to start this Monday morning, the 7th of July, this hour of the show. Brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today. 601-206-7966, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you this morning. The stories out of Central Texas in the Hill Country are devastating, absolutely devastating. And I don't know if you've had trouble following the news on this story. It feels like it's been everywhere. All of the news channels are covering it now in person. You've had the written accounts of it. You've seen the stuff on social media. I mean, some of the posts on Facebook and on X are just absolutely heartbreaking. Yesterday, families sifted through waterlogged debris, stepped inside empty cabins at Camp Mystic, an all-girls summer camp that was ripped apart by flash floods that washed homes off their foundations and killed at least 82 people in the central part of the state of Texas. Rescuers were moving through challenging terrain, high waters, snakes, including water moccasins, continuing their desperate search for the missing, including 10 girls and a counselor from the camp. In Kerr County, home to Camp Mystic, and that's where Kerrville, Texas is, and other camps in the Texas Hill Country, searchers have found the bodies of 68 people, including 28 children. That's according to Sheriff Larry Letha. He pledged to keep searching until everybody is found. From Friday's flash floods, the other deaths were reported in Travis, Burnett, Kendall, Tom Green, and Williamson counties. According to local officials, death toll going to continue to rise. At least 82 people at this point have been killed. The governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott, warned that additional rounds of heavy rains lasting into Tuesday could produce more life-threatening flooding, especially in places where the ground is already saturated. President Trump signed a major disaster declaration yesterday for Kerr County, activating FEMA to Texas. The destructive, fast-moving waters rose 26 feet in 45 minutes before daybreak on Friday morning, washing away homes and vehicles. The danger is not over as flash flood watches remained in effect and more rain fell on Sunday. Searchers used helicopters, boats, drones, and other tools to look for victims and rescue people stranded in trees, And from camps isolated by washed-out roads, officials said more than 850 people were rescued in the first 36 hours after the disaster. The hills along the Guadalupe River are dotted with century-old youth camps and campgrounds who's had families of generations of families come to swim there and enjoy the outdoors. It's especially popular around the 4th of July weekend, making it more difficult to know just how many people are missing. You know, we think about the destructive power of wildfires. And, you know, we saw that in California several months ago. The thing with wildfires is, you know, as the winds shift, they can move quickly, sometimes really, really quickly. But as we were watching the fires in California, you had efforts to try and put the fires out. And, you know, dumping water and flame retardant in certain areas to try to give people time to evacuate, get out of their homes. You know, you're able to look at forecasts of winds and kind of figure out where the fire is going. With tornadoes, they can hit really, really quickly. But usually you have warning systems that are in place for tornadoes to kind of give people a heads up. Sometimes they happen faster than you can do anything. With hurricanes, you've got modeling that gives people a heads up for an extended period of time. Right? I mean, we're tracking a storm for 2 weeks. We talked with Lieutenant Colonel Cross with the hurricane hunters last week, and he talked about, you know, a disturbance off in the southern Caribbean gets their attention, and they start tracking the storm, and you have all these different models, but you have a general idea of where this is going to come. With flash flooding, there is no slowing down of the process because there's you can't drop a dam in place. You can't dig a reservoir for all the water to go into. It's just the water. Lance, I don't think we normally think of it this way, but out of control water may be the most destructive force that exists on the planet. Especially when you add all the debris and the logs and everything that's coming with it. And, you know, it just doesn't – if it doesn't have a barrier, man, it is going to destroy everything in its sight. I've seen it, you know, from the Delta perspective where it's real slow. I've also seen it up in the mountains of Arkansas where the water can be 3 or 4 feet deep. And when they open those locks, you know, it's 20 feet within 4, 5, 6 hours. So – it's very powerful to watch something with that much volume. You're talking about 25 feet in a couple of hours. I mean, that's a wall of water. And with all of the debris that comes with it in a flooding situation, if you look at those the hill country, I mean, it was all, as they say, the water does not absorb into those hills. It just rushes down into the river and carries everything with it. And such a tragedy. And to have somebody like Sadie Perkins, the former Houston official, you know, commenting as she did, I just think is extremely heartless given the tragedy that these folks have experienced. It's devastating, as you said earlier. Yeah, and you know, the politicization of natural disasters is, I mean, there is not a political party that has got the market cornered on insensitivity when it comes to that. You immediately had Democrats who were trying to point to some of the cuts that DOJ has made to different agencies as the culprit for why this happened the way it happened. And I mean, it's disingenuous at best. It's just inaccurate. Here's the thing. So the forecast was for 5 to 7 inches of rain, and there was a warning that flash floods were possible. But that system just stalled out, and it dumped so much rain in such a short period of time in an area that is known for flash floods because of the Guadalupe River and the way that it's put together. And you don't know exactly what warning systems were in place. I'm sure there were text messages that went out. NPR did a great job of hitting that timeline. You would be surprised with a liberal organization like that I really think they did a wonderful job of going through the timeline, and that it seemed that most anyone that needed to be notified and the ability to in a administrative role in that was not there. Nobody was suffering from information. It's just the unknown. It seems more. And the truth of the matter is, we can't survive seemingly without cell phones, but cell coverage is not perfect. And it's certainly not perfect when the weather is awful. The companies that provide cellular service do an incredible job. I mean, we've talked in the past about the way that C Spire reacts in natural disaster situations in the state of Mississippi. But when you talk about something happening at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning in the dark of night, that happens in just a matter of minutes. We're not talking about 6 inches of floodwater or a foot of floodwater over the course of an hour or two. I mean, that can be devastating. I mean, a foot or two of floodwater can get in and can mess up homes, and we see storm surge as it relates to hurricanes and how quick. But again, you got warning in that situation. This river rose 26 feet in 45 minutes. Try to think of how tall 26 feet is. We're talking about the height of 2.5 regulation basketball goals. We're talking about almost a 3-story house going from ground level to that high in 45 minutes. And then you were telling me a second ago in the break, you looked at the topography and the way the Guadalupe River flows. And, I mean, because of the beauty and the location, a lot of these camps were built in areas that were in bends of the river because they provided, like, great swimming areas and great recreation areas. You get to a turn in that river and the water comes up like that, guess what? Nowhere for the water to go. We are seeing stories emerge of heroism. Somebody points out the math on 26 feet in 45 minutes, 7 inches a minute. 7 inches a minute. You can't fill your coffee pot 7 inches in a minute.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line, your message is coming in. 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, the 7th of July. The current planned cuts to the National Weather Service and NOAA don't go into effect until the end of July, so anyone blaming the Trump administration for this past weekend's tragedy is just wrong. That said, maybe they should rethink the upcoming cuts. We got that message that showed 7 inches per minute in terms of how fast it's falling. And a lot of you were kind of coming up with visuals for just how fast that water came up. But you have seen some of the stories of heroism popping up in this, including a young Coast Guard worker, Scott Ruskin. It's one that was highlighted online. Saved 165 lives himself. 26-year-old former KPMG accountant directed Army Black Hawk 60s and MH-65s to survivors and helped them get to safety. Spearheaded a high-risk rescue mission under the worst possible environment conditions, which in the end saw 165 brought to safety. He said he was just doing his job. He said, that's what I signed up for. I think any single Coast Guard rescue swimmer or any single Coast Guard pilot, flight mechanic, whoever it may be, would have done the exact same thing in our situation. That's what we were asked to do, and it's what we're going to do. Any one of us, if anyone else was on duty that day, would have done the exact same thing. We just happened to be the crew that got the call. I was reading some about and posting, looking at some posts from the Cajun Navy over the weekend as well. July 5th, so that was Saturday, they had this post online. So we genuinely, well, hold on just a second before I read that. When you hear stories of the Cajun Navy, the the image that comes to mind for me, and you may have a different mental image, is a bunch of dudes in white shrimp boots, Cajun Reeboks, they're sometimes called, show up with their airboats and their, long tiller motors, and they kind of get in and they help people and they cook some food. And man, that is a way more organized organization than that. At a post that said, we genuinely appreciate the outpouring of volunteer requests for the mission in Texas. At this time, we're only using special ops volunteers. Given the sensitive nature of the missing being adolescent girls, we don't have time to vet new people. We hope everybody understands, and we love you. So many people trying to reach out, trying to help, donating time, resources, etc. And it sounds like there are going to be a lot of opportunities for that help. There was a post yesterday that said, guess who's back? Back again. Mules are back. Tell a friend. That's right. The mule team that made world famous in western North Carolina is now headed to Texas to join the United Cajun Navy cruise, going in, trying to get to places that you can't in boats or off-road vehicles. It really is incredible, the outpouring of support that you see. And gosh, Lance, I was reading one particular story last night, and I haven't been able to consume all of this at once. It's like just kind of heart-wrenching and overwhelming to try and read a lot of it at a single time. There was a story last night that I read about sisters who were at that camp together, and they unfortunately were found dead, 13-year-old and 11-year-old, and they were found together with their hands interlocked, holding hands, trying to support each other. And the older of the two sent a text message to their family that said, I love you, at 3 a.m. in the morning. And this was a family that was like there for it was mom and dad and nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles and grandparents, and I think it was the grandparents that lived in the area but didn't have a house big enough to hold everybody, and so they were split up into a couple of cabins. And so the mom and dad were in one cabin, and you had the grandparents and the grandkids in another cabin, and grandparents are still missing, and two of those girls have been found. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Well,
you had the soccer coach and his wife and their two kids from Kerrville, and was extremely well thought of, as a mentor and inspiring factor there for those that he had touched. And the coach and the wife were found, I believe, but they still have not found the two kids from what we know at this point. But, just tragedy after tragedy, families getting together and trying to have a nice little getaway for the weekend, and it just turned terrible.
Yeah. This was, I guess this was a post from the United Cajun Navy that outlined the forecast. What really happened: remnants of Tropical Storm Barry draped the hill country in extreme tropical moisture with atmospheric moisture levels sky high, upslope flow over hilly terrain, and abundant instability. Conditions were primed for catastrophic flash floods. The National Weather Service, leading up to it, flagged heavy rain potential by Sunday, extending alerts through Wednesday. By Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, messaging mentioned flood risk on Thursday into Friday. On Thursday, flood watches were issued. By late afternoon, a slight risk of excessive rain was highlighted, which in hindsight may have underplayed the potential. Wednesday night runs were showing 7 to 9 inches of rain in the bullseye area, but by Thursday morning, those projections grew even more. Just awful. And perhaps you have seen the posts tying this to the 1987 flood event in the Guadalupe River area as well. Same thing happened in 1987. Church camp kids were taken by the Guadalupe River, and it's happening, or has happened again. Nearly 40 years apart, same region, same kinds of kids, same outcome. People saying, how is this even possible? Well, it's possible because the topography hasn't changed. It's an area that holds so many memories for so many people, a major outdoor vacation area, a summer camp area. And you don't stop living just because bad events happened. I mean, there are certain areas that are more susceptible to tornadoes. We know that, right? I mean, when tornadoes start making their way through Mississippi, there are certain areas that you look at because it's like, oh, tornadoes have been through there before. And it feels like they're always kind of in the line of many of those storms, whether it's topography or whatever. But you don't stop living in those areas altogether. You don't stop living your life or just move your home. Sometimes you just rebuild in that exact same space. Hey. That's tough, man. And some of the pictures in the aftermath of this that you've seen over and over with massive trees uprooted, homes that have been just washed away from their foundation, trucks and vans and cars that are just like floating rapidly down what was streets or neighborhoods.
It reminds you of watching a tidal wave come in. Almost, if you've seen some of those videos from the years ago, and was it Indonesia or India where the big one hit? It's a wall of water, and it's carrying so much junk and debris. It's a miracle. One of the kids floated 12 miles before they were able to grab onto a tree. I mean, that's just a miracle.
Was that the one that was on a mattress?
I think so, yeah. But, I mean, with everything in there, being able to make it that far, that fast, I mean, thinking how quickly that water is running downstream, carrying so much.
It's like you're riding a raft through 12 miles of Category 5 rapids.
Exactly.
And instead of boulders, you're, cars and houses and trees and debris and stumps and who knows what else you're having to try to avoid.
And, it's time to celebrate those that have survived and also to remember those that have passed, because there will be, as the Cajun Navy said, it's going to get a little uglier, I'm sure, before it gets better. But there are harrowing stories of people,
and then there's the aftermath, right?
Yeah.
I mean, guess what's coming back to Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Heat.
Yeah.
And so you have all of this water and all of, somebody said, you talk about going 12 miles downriver in the dark, no less.
In the dark, right, yeah.
In the dark. And so on the backside of this, you're going to get heat in Texas that is, in the 90s, if not low 100 degrees. And that does not make the aftermath any easier to deal with at all. We will we'll have our first guest of the morning coming up next. Chris Brown, another Northern District Public Service Commissioner. We'll get an update from the PSC office and also check in on what's going on in Marshall County, Holly Springs, with that investigation that has been going for months and months now about the electrical system there. Are we moving any closer to relief and stability for those folks in Holly Springs and Marshall County and the surrounding counties? We'll get into that with Chris Brown coming up next. Mornings of Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Muddy water, take my pain away.
From the home.
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you on this Monday morning, the 7th of July. Don't forget the 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon is this Thursday right here on Super Talk, Mississippi. You'll learn how Palmer Home for Children serves vulnerable children. It's a faith-based organization that doesn't take government money, and we'll need your help. We want you to tune in and join us for the 13th annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon this Thursday right here on Super Talk, Mississippi. My first guest joins us this morning. Chris Brown is the Northern District Public Service Commissioner. We have had conversations in the past. Chris, good morning to you. Appreciate
good morning, Richard. How are you?
Being back with us.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Let's just dive right in with the story that seems to keep not going away, and that is the investigation that the PSC has undergone in Marshall County, Holly Springs, surrounding areas with that electrical system there and some of the public utilities. What kind of an update can you give us on where that conversation, where that investigation is?
We're continuing to do the work that the legislature allowed us to do with the passage of the bill a couple of years ago. What we found out is probably worse than what we even thought early on, especially on the financial side. TVA did some financial audits. So TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, provides power for most of the Northern District up here and for over 14 states around the country. They actually did a fiscal financial audit. And what we found out from their review was that, obviously, Holly Springs Utility District owes them over $6 million that they haven't paid, over $3.2 million in unpaid invoices to suppliers and contractors. They have over $1 million uncollected in delinquent debt as far as the ratepayers that haven't paid their bill in the district. Over $24 million needs to be spent just in right-of-way clearing. That's just getting the vegetation off the power lines and off the equipment to even see exactly where they're at. So it's what once was an asset is quickly showing to be a pretty substantial liability from the fiscal audit and from the previous studies that TVPPA have done in the past.
All right, so quick math I'm doing as you were saying that, nearly $10 million in unpaid liabilities by HSUD to TVA and contractors, another $1 million that they have not collected from their customers, and $24 million just to kind of figure out how to actually fix the problem because you got to go and clean up literal vegetation mess on lines and transformers and whatever else?
Yes, sir. And then once you clear the vegetation off the lines, then we expect they'll find a bunch of poles that need repair and other equipment that needs repair under that vegetation. So it's a pretty grim picture at this point, which many people in that service area are aware of because the service has been spotty. And I will say that the new director of HSUD, he's doing a yeoman's job, and the employees are doing a great job. They just don't have the resources that they need to get the job done. And so the linemen are doing what they can. Wayne Jones is doing what he can. And good news is, too, just so your audience knows, is that there is a new mayor and administration coming in that has been very helpful for us. To us to try to find out what's going on. So the previous administration was very dilatory and tried to slow down the process that was laid out by the legislature to find out what's going on. And so you can't fix a problem until you know exactly what the problems are. And so the previous administration, they were dragging their feet and blocking the independent auditor to go in and check out the operations side. So I will say thank you to the new administration, the new mayor and aldermen that are actually working with the independent contractor to make sure their work is done and they have the information and data needed to fix the problem.
Chris Brown is another Northern District Public Service Commissioner, and this is a problem that's been going on for a long time, for years now. Years since the legislature has gotten involved, since Public Service Commission has gotten involved. This is not something that has happened overnight. Is there a scenario outside throwing money at the problem that fixes this situation in perpetuity going forward?
There's only 3 systems that are set up like Holly Springs in Mississippi. So you have, they're municipally owned, but their service area goes beyond the city limits. And over 80% of the connections for HSUD are outside the city limits. So a big complaint of the people out in the county, they have no representation. They have no input on how the system is run and who runs the system. So if 80% of the connections are outside the city, but the city controls the utility district, then those people have no representation on that board. And that's very frustrating, obviously, to them. And it shows in the service that most of the outages are outside of the city limits. But there's only 3 in the state: Holly Springs, New Albany, and Okolona. And Holly Springs is the only one that is having these kind of chronic issues, and it has been decades in the making. So,
why would they have been set up that way? I mean, if that is a unique setup, I mean, was it just something that made sense? Was it a for-profit venture at one point that was running the way that it was supposed to run?
Yes, it was set up before when TVA first came in. They were providing electricity to the city, and so they were just granted a certificated area that included the counties. And so for a long time, obviously, it worked fine, and New Albany works fantastic. Bill Maddox and his team do a great job in New Albany, and so that setup can work well. The problem is in Holly Springs, it got off the rails probably a decade or so ago, 10 or 12 years ago, and a lot of people kind of fell asleep at the wheel, and whether intentionally or not, the consequences have been dire for the system, and that's where we're at now. And to your point, we started digging into it 2 years ago to try to identify the problem, because the outages kind of got to us even when I was in the legislature. Senator Whaley brought it to our attention that it is in bad shape. So they literally appropriated over $500,000 to do an audit, TVPPA audit, and then use the rest of the money to triage the system. So the audit was done by TVPPA, which is the co-op for the Tennessee Valley Authority electrical departments. And they found, which is online, we can send you the link, but they found it was in very, very bad shape and needed immediate attention, or it could have catastrophic failures. So the rest of the money, over $400,000, to this day has still not been appropriated by the Holly Springs Utility District to triage the system. I will say this new administration has finally started to get that money off the sidelines to do some vegetation control.
For the people that live in Holly Springs and the surrounding areas that are serviced by HSUD, I mean, we could talk about the problems and the long-term fixes and audits and all those things, but ultimately what they care about is, hey, when I flip the light switch or when I plug in my cell phone charger, does power come on? Is there a near-term solution that is going to get rid of these outages that are happening on an ongoing basis?
It's going to be a process. Senate Bill 2453 that was passed introduced by Senator Whaley and passed in the Senate and the House gave us a path forward to try to solve the problem. And the steps there are the third-party investigation to kind of get us where we're at now. Once that's done, which it's wrapping up currently, we'll go into having hearings in district. And so the legislation allows us to hear up from both sides, hear from HSUD, hear from ratepayers, which we want them to intervene and actually come tell their story as well, and from TVA and others to find out exactly, again, where we're at. Then we will, the Public Service Commission, the 3-member Public Service Commission, will make a ruling on that to say, is it reasonably adequate service? If at that point we deem it's not reasonably adequate, it goes to a judge, and then the judge decides how to move forward with that system. So that's the first step to where we're at now, and we're on track to hopefully have those hearings by August.
Well, for the folks that want their air conditioning to run when it's 100 degrees outside, that may not be exactly the news that they are hoping to hear, but I guess it is good news that the process is moving forward and everybody's focused on some solutions. Chris, always appreciate your time, and we will continue to reach out and get updates from you on this and talk more about what's going on.
I would like to add this. we need to hear from people in Holly Springs Utility District, so we keep track of all the outages. Just have them call us at 662-432-1141, and we're going to stay the course and make sure that this crisis is solved. And it's going to be the benefit of everybody in the utility district and in the state. So we're going to stay the course until we get this resolved.
Chris Brown with the Public Service Commission. We'll be right back. Thank you.
From the Venable.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I'm paying for last night's drowning memories again. I stumbled through the Bible looking for some aspirin. Had an empty box of Kotex that reminds me we're through. I'm at the breakfast table trying on solutions, putting berries in my coffee, vodka in my juice. I'm all out of champagne, I guess there's no mimosa.
Before Kash Patel was the director of the FBI, he said they were going to get to the bottom of the Jeffrey Epstein story. Dan Bongino, as deputy director of the FBI, said there is more here. Donald Trump said, we're going to publish the list. Pam Bondi said, we've got tens of thousands of videos. There is information coming. And then today we get a release from the Department of Justice that says, not really anything here to prosecute. Let's listen to some of these clips. Here's Dan Bongino on his radio show back in 2023, and then the voice that you hear at the end is Dan Bongino after coming on board as deputy director of the FBI.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
All right, so that clip there at the end is an interview that Bongino was doing with Fox News where he says he killed himself. Here's Pam Bondi. This was, shortly after she was named U.S. Attorney General.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that.
All right, now listen to this statement today from the DOJ and the FBI. As part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein included a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. The release goes on to say this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. There's more there in the statement if you want to read it in its entirety. Search for it online on X, wherever you want to do it. C-Spire text line, I can't believe Epstein killed himself right before he was about to be acquitted due to a complete lack of evidence. Well, there wasn't a lack of evidence as it pertains to Jeffrey Epstein. There was plenty of evidence, as you see from this report. The problem is, what you want us to believe is that Jeffrey Epstein was a lone ranger. All the images, all the video, all the documents, it's just him in those pictures. Over 1,000 victims, but it was just Jeffrey and Ghislaine. Right? It wasn't all of those other people that we know were flying on his plane. Insane amounts of money and insane amounts of power are undefeated. You're not treated the same way as the most powerful people in the world are. You're just not. I don't think all people that have power and all people that have money are bad people. But when you have bad people that have money and have power, and they want to hold on to that money and they want to hold on to that power, it seems as if there is no limit to which they will go or what they will do to keep those things and to protect themselves. And this story just stinks. It stinks. It has stunk from the beginning, and it still stinks today.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
There's a black man with a black cat living in a black neighborhood.
Welcome again to Mornings with Richard Cross, 8 o'clock hour. Today is the 7th of July, 2025. We're glad to be with you. Thanks for joining us. The C-Spire text line is open to you. You can be part of the conversation at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. So much going on at C-Spire. You know that your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else. With the best technology for homework and on the go, it's backed by local 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. We are now officially in Radiothon Week. The Palmer Home for Children Radiothon is coming your way on Thursday of this week. We've been telling you for several weeks now that this is coming. And to talk more about that, Drake Bassett joins us right now. We look forward to being on the Palmer Home for Children campus this coming Thursday for the annual Palmer Home for Children SuperTalk Mississippi Radiothon. Drake is president and CEO at Palmer Home for Children. Good morning, my friend.
Hey, Richard. How you doing?
Good, man. Hope you and your family had a great Independence Day weekend, and now it's time to get to work. We got a lot of work to do this week.
Yeah, we do. And, sorry you had a bowl of oatmeal for the news this morning. Cold oatmeal, that is. That's just tough news to work with. And, it just brings to mind, the fact that, it's really, really important how this country takes care of its children and vulnerable population. I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated with not only those stories that we hear in the news, but, we continue to worry about, children here in Mississippi. And, many of these children are vulnerable to some of the same kinds of people who are interested in manipulating and taking advantage of many, many children who are vulnerable. And so I appreciate, the balance of news and also the opportunity this week for Palmer Home to share its story and to tap into something I think is really fantastic, which is the heart of Mississippi that does, as that opening song was playing there, a lot of us come from small towns, and we understand the value of taking care of people. And I'm really thankful for that and grateful that we get to work with you this week. We do have a lot of work ahead of us, you're right.
There's no question. I think that's a great way to dovetail kind of what we were talking about and where we're headed. We live in a country that thankfully puts a great deal of value on children, at least for the most part. But there are children that are neglected. There are children that are left behind. There are places where value is not placed on children, and that's not their fault, right? The kids didn't do anything to deserve some of what they have to deal with. It's been really hard, Drake, since Friday to read some of these stories out of Texas. And to imagine like this most beautiful thing. We've talked 100 times in the past about what you guys are doing for kids at Palmer Home, things like sending them to camp, the way that so many of us send our own kids to camp. And the idea of you hug and kiss your son or daughter and tell them to have a great time, and you'll see them in a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then there's not another opportunity to ever hug those kids again. It just underscores how precious the life of a child is.
Boy, that's exactly right. And it was really hard. My Instagram feed or X feed, whatever it was, just kept putting up these pictures of these young girls where their family was verifying that the body had been located, but that the child was not alive. And it does. It underscores their vulnerability and, of course, circumstances, beyond their control. But it also creates, at least in my mind, a sense of urgency that, if today is the day you get, and that's about all we're guaranteed, then we need to put our shoulder forward to pay attention to those things. We need to lean into opportunities where we can influence the children in our lives, whether it's our own children or our grandchildren, or maybe it's family of some sort, or maybe it's in the community. But certainly when, we present the opportunity from Palmer Home, what we're really saying is this is an opportunity for you to support and help children that you may never know. But I guarantee you, they've got the same kind of faces. They've got the same kind of dreams. They've got the same kind of desires to be children. And because of circumstances beyond their control, they may be with us. And if they're here at Palmer Home, our desire is to create a childhood for them, one that's structured with family, with faith, with values. And, if the Lord is willing, they'll have a healthy and prosperous life, to come. So it all comes to mind. And all of these things are reminders to us that now is the moment. Today is the day. Reach out and do something. And certainly on Thursday, people can reach out and contribute.
I got a question from somebody close to me very recently about whether or not kids can see what is going on at Palmer Home. And I'm not talking about the kids that are in your care. I'm talking about children like mine or yours or somebody that's listening. They're like, I hear you guys talking about it on the radio, and I feel like this could be a powerful teaching moment within our family. What does that look like if somebody wants to connect their family, even just in terms of a visit or an awareness event for their own kids? What does that look like?
That's a great question, Richard, because often when I'm in front of groups, especially young people, college kids, whether over at Mississippi State or Ole Miss, I'll ask the question, who taught you how to give? Who taught you how to give? And ultimately, it's a parent's responsibility not only to provide and make sure that we entertain them with different things, but, if we're going to be good parents and if we're going to be good grandparents and good community people, we need to teach the next generation how to give. And one of the ways to do that is to show them why, and to give them an opportunity to understand why giving is significant, that, we're blessed and so we have opportunities. So we encourage people, if they'd like to bring their family or if they'd like to bring their children, they can come here and schedule, an easy 1 hour to have an overview, to learn about what's going on. And then for some of our families who have gone through the process and want to be involved as a mentor, or maybe they might want to foster a child at some point, there are opportunities to connect with our children. We had a wonderful a woman last week bring her children out here who knows us well, and they brought popsicles and ice cream for some of our kids out at the pool. Yeah. And it was a teaching moment. That's why she brought her children, to teach them to understand that not every child can control their circumstances or is blessed with necessarily the stability of a faithful family. So, by all means, it's a great opportunity.
A lot of opportunities to connect, a lot of opportunities to help. One of the things that you and I have talked about in the past, Radiothon is a special day, and we see firsthand on this particular day the generosity of people all over the state of Mississippi with gifts that come in small and large. Most of those gifts are one-time donations, but there is an opportunity to do a little more planned giving, whether it's a state-related stuff or maybe a more practical and easy way to do it is in terms of a recurring gift that happens monthly.
That's right.
And that's something that Jane and I have chosen to do. We made that decision several years ago, and it certainly has been rewarding for us. And it's something that is helpful for Palmer Home and maybe even the accounting office in terms of planning for what you have in terms of budget.
That's right. I really appreciate you bringing that up because, one of the easiest ways is to, just commit and go ahead and set up your debit card. We do it for so many other things, whether it's, Prime Video or Netflix or our sports subscription or whatever it is, and we're getting debited all kinds of time. Why not put $25 down and just say, every month we're going to give that to Palmer Home? Or why not do $100 or whatever it is that works for you? But the point is that it's a recurring gift that allows us to plan for the future and provide for children in a way that, it's just not a one-time hit. And it's also getting back to that teaching moment. I encourage families to set that up for some of their children and say, hey, look, you're going to do this. And in fact, I pulled my son-in-law aside just a couple of years ago and I said, hey, your kids are coming up. This is something that you can. And you know what's great about that? Is that his children now are excited to know about the impact. It's not the gift. It's like Paul says in Philippians 4. He says, it's not the gift we're after. It's the fruit of the gift that we're after. And teaching what can happen with your gift and the potential of that fruit, that's a great opportunity for families to get involved. A monthly donation on a regular basis.
We have, because of the length of this partnership, had the ability to watch some kids go from kindergarten or preschool to high school graduation. That's not the story for every child that's there. Some kids end up with families or end up in different places from somewhere in that process. But we've had a chance to watch a few of them. It's incredibly rewarding to see these young people grow with love around them, with Palmer Home and everybody that's affiliated wrapping their arms around them. Can't wait to tell some of those stories coming up on Thursday. Drake, thanks so much.
Yeah. Hey, you bet. Really appreciate your passion for it. Thanks to everybody out there listening, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Palmer Home for Children, 13th Annual Radiothon coming up this Thursday. That's Drake Bassett, President and CEO at Palmer Home. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us on this Monday morning. Appreciate Drake Bassett always stopping by, President and CEO at Palmer Home for Children, and talking about the mission and the incredible work that's going on there. We look forward to spending the day with you on Thursday for the 13th Annual Palmer Home for Children Radiothon. C-Spire text line. You have you've learned the stories of some of the children and have gotten to know them through the years at Palmer Home. How about this message? My wife and I had the opportunity to have BJ and DeMar at our house in Hattiesburg this weekend. They've been in and out of our house since they were 8 and 9, and I can tell you firsthand what a difference Palmer Home has made in their lives, of their entire family's life. Thank you for all you guys do to raise money for this wonderful cause. That's from DJ in Hattiesburg. DJ, thanks for the message, man. Really appreciate that. That is two young men that we have been able to watch grow up at Palmer Home, and two special young men whose life has been changed for the good because of the work that is happening there and because of the generosity of people just like you, DJ. Scott Bassett was making the rounds on the morning shows yesterday. He was on State of the Union with Dana Bash. And, oh, buddy, Lance, she had a gotcha question for Scott Bassett. However, if you watch the interviews with Scott Bassett since he has been named Secretary of the Treasury, you have you perhaps have noticed that gotcha doesn't tend to work very well with him. They were talking about different elements of the big, beautiful bill that was signed into law by the president on Saturday in that ceremony at the White House. And she was talking specifically about the work requirements necessary for able-bodied Medicaid recipients. And some of the criticism, especially from Republicans, that had come about that. Take a listen. Dana Bash with Scott Bassett, the Treasury Secretary.
I'm sure you've seen and heard a lot of the concern, including and especially from Republicans who are the most vocal in Congress, about the fact that those work requirements are going to be very cumbersome to actually prove, and it will inevitably force the people who need that Medicaid coverage off the rolls.
Well, first of all, the Republicans are not the most vocal on this. It is a group of Democrats who, unfortunately, seem to think that poor people are stupid. I don't think poor people are stupid. I think they have agency, and I think to have them register twice a year for these benefits that is not a burden. But these people who want to infantilize the poor and those who need these Medicaid benefits are alarmist.
Yeah, but my impression of the Republican Party is that historically you've wanted to cut through the red tape and not create more red tape. But I do want to move on because...
Well, no. But we've also wanted to put in work requirements, which somehow that was very popular under Bill Clinton, was popular under President Obama, and this Democratic Party blew out the deficit in 2020, and they never want to bring it back. But work requirements even poll well with the median Democratic voter, maybe not the fringe.
And remember, when we're talking about the work requirements, Lance, we're not talking about some onerous, impossible to reach a threshold requirement for work. We're talking about 80 hours a month.
I mean, that's paltry, man. I mean,
20 hours a week. And, oh, by the way, it doesn't actually have to be work. It can be looking for work. It can be community volunteering. It can be charity work. And if you are unable to work, or if there is an extenuating circumstance that keeps you from being able to work, you can document that and still be approved for Medicaid.
It reminds me of the days where you had the workman's comp people out, looking for those that are bilking the system, faking injuries and getting that paycheck to not work. And it seemed at one point in time in the history of this country that was something that was kind of frowned upon, bilking the taxpayer for their hard-earned money because you don't want to work or can work and don't. So I'm all for it. And I'm sorry if it's a problem for people to prove that they work or that they're doing what's asked of them to receive the benefits. I mean, I remember.
And look,
that's the way it is.
I mean, if you are physically or mentally unable to work, there's an exception for you. If you have multiple children that you are caring for and there's nobody else to care for them, there is an exception for you. There are lots and lots of. If you're in school, there's an exception there, and you can still be approved for this.
Well, it's like voter ID and work requirements are obviously problematic for the far left. And I think, as Bassett said, it's not necessarily the middle of the pack. It's going to be your fringe side that is really the ones that want to continue as it is. And you got to ask yourself why.
Yeah. Get a message on the C Spire text line. Says Mississippi did not cut the TANF budget. It buried it in paperwork. 98% of applicants were rejected, and the few approved faced endless hassle. That is the federal government's new way of cutting Medicaid and Medicare while claiming they did not. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's arguing that TANF funds have been handled perfectly in Mississippi by any stretch of the imagination. But this is not necessarily the same.
The TANF funds, what are we talking about? We're talking about work requirement for people that are on Medicaid that are receiving federal benefits.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Not every system is done well and done right, and I'm not going to applaud every system that's put in place.
You know my opinion. As I told you the other day, systems are designed to give you the result that you get. So I've worked with a lot of things in this world, but the consequences are intended. So, I mean, there aren't accidents and coincidences in most cases. So, and that with TANF, there was a pool of money, and it was a lot of folks got things they didn't need. You keep seeing, all these fraud cases that are still being uncovered. So
sure,
it's not going away.
Scott Bassett was also on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream, and they were talking about the migration or immigration crisis in the United States. This was Bassett, and to me, I think the end of what you hear is the part that rings true for me. Is that doing well economically or financially doesn't have to be limited to one segment of the population. Now, there are people that would argue trickle-down economics doesn't work. That's not a good economic system. It just lines the pockets of billionaires. Maybe so. And I'm not here to debate that with you one way or the other. But the idea that big business can do well and small business and regular, normal, everyday Main Street people can do well strikes me as something that is attainable. This is Scott Bassett answering a question about that.
And look, what we saw was this mass unfettered immigration across the border, whether it's 12 or 22 million people who came in, suppressed working people's wages. And for 20 years, the big lie was that this kind of immigration didn't hurt working people. Now, economists have come out and said, oh, what a surprise. Even the laws of supply and demand work in the low-end labor market. So I talk about in that editorial what I call parallel prosperity, that for years Wall Street has done well. Now it's time for Main Street to do well, and they can both do well. And that's the one big beautiful bill. That's the beauty of this. It helps Wall Street and Main Street.
And I think that's a point, and there are people that want to argue, oh, no, that's not what this does. This only provides tax cuts for billionaires. Truth of the matter is, that's not true. How does it help billionaires? Well, it makes the 2017 tax cuts that Trump put into place permanent. Right? There's not a sunsetting period on those tax cuts. And those tax cuts have been beneficial for business. But those tax cuts have also been beneficial for individuals. The highest tax bracket is lower right now. The standard deductions are going up. Child tax credits are getting larger. Not a lot larger, but a little larger. And so for people who are making middle-class money, however you describe that, it's good there. Also, there are provisions that are in place that help small businesses. Businesses that are functioning as LLCs or S-Corps. There is a pass-through provision that is going to make this bill beneficial in terms of dealing with taxes and having to pay less in taxes to the government. You got the tax on tips thing and the tax on Social Security thing, and there are a lot of people because across the economic spectrum that are going to benefit from the provisions of this bill. Is it perfect? No, it's not. It's never going to be perfect. But it's progress.
From the Subaru Paint Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up. Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. The C Spire text line is open to you. It's 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. As he does just about every Monday morning, JT Mitchell, SuperTalk Mississippi news director, joins us right now. Hello, my friend. Hope you had a wonderful Independence Day weekend.
It was a great weekend celebrating the country. How about you, Richard?
It was outstanding. Outstanding. Got to watch fireworks over the Gulf of America. A good weekend.
Did your map say Gulf of America?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was a good weekend. Got to spend time with family, and then now back at it today.
Does your map say Gulf of America?
I'm not sure. I haven't even looked, but I haven't driven down that way in quite a while. I know some maps do, some maps don't. But fortunately, I got Friday off. I had some of my team members.
Apple Maps on my phone does.
It does? There you go.
There it is. Gulf
Wonder
of
about
America.
Waze. I don't know if you're a Waze guy.
I did use Waze on this trip.
Waze is good.
Yeah.
You know, they have a cult community updating the maps and reporting police. It's one of the most accurate apps out there.
Do you, like when the little button pops up that says there's debris in the road, is it still there? Do you just swipe away or do you, confirm or deny?
If I'm using it, I'm all about confirming. I'm not going to be the guy who changes the maps when I have a moment of free time during the day, but I'll help my fellow drivers.
There you go. There you go. Scary stuff in terms of train derailments. 3 of them that happened in Mississippi over the weekend, Tallahatchie County, Sardis, and where was the other one that we looked at? Was it Petal? Yeah, Petal also. So Petal and Tallahatchie County both happening on July 5th, and then Panola County on July 6th as well. What's up? Were we greasing the tracks?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. When I saw the first one, I was like, that's kind of odd. When I saw the second and third, I was like, what theme are we on this weekend? And I don't know if you guys saw the aerial shot of the one in Tallahatchie County. I mean, cars are scattered everywhere, some of which are on fire. It was very scary stuff. And fortunately, I have not seen any injuries. Yeah. I know the one north of Sardis, they said no significant injuries. So maybe some people got scuffed up a bit, but nothing that is going to take anyone's life, which is good. But yeah, 3 train wrecks in one weekend in this state. I don't think that will happen again, knock on wood, anytime soon. I've never seen that. Have you?
Not that I can remember. The one in Tallahatchie County was in the community of Glendora and had the benzene tanker on there, and it caused evacuation. And I'm like you, really good news that nobody appears to have been seriously injured as a result.
And I will say, though, real quick, the one that is north of Sardis, right there off Highway 51, officials are still saying do not travel in the area. It's going to take days to clean this stuff up when you have train cars scattered everywhere, debris. So just avoid it if you can, no matter. I assume the same can be said for Tallahatchie and Petal as well. So just be smart out there.
Yeah, we certainly encourage you to do that. All right, we've talked a lot about the big, beautiful bill and kind of what is in it and what this means. You've really tried to dive in and look at it through the lens of Mississippi. Is there anything you found that stands out to you?
Well, the newsroom did a great job covering this because this is a 900-page plus bill. I don't know how many people out there, especially the lawmakers, were able to read every single page of it. There's a lot in it. And depends on who you ask. There's positive, and then there are negative policy points within it. Ben Milam did a great article. I know that we probably will not have enough time during this segment to go over all the nuts and bolts of how it does impact Mississippi. So go read that if you can, if you want to get more about this. I know y'all have spoken about it a lot. The highlights that I heard y'all talking about include cementing those 2017 tax cuts, phasing out EV and clean energy incentives that were built under President Biden, funding for large increases in detention centers and border walls. And then there was some further defense funding. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts in this bill.
Yeah.
And
and the defense funding, I think, is something that probably stands out because when you look at a budget for the military that's going to be in the neighborhood of $1 trillion, and you look at the money that ICE and Homeland Security are going to get, there, with the shipbuilding capabilities that exist on the coast, it feels like there's a really good chance that there is money that will be coming into Mississippi's economy and creating jobs here simply as a result of those increased budgets.
That's the hope, and I know that's what Senator Roger Wicker hopes as well. I'm sure he had his hands all up in that, trying to get further defense funding for our people like Ingalls and others who are building ships on the Gulf Coast. Really what Ben did in the article that I once again suggest everyone go read is he took it major topic by major topic. And let's start with taxes. So last week we caught up with Republican Congressman Michael Guest, and he says that the bill will help the average Mississippian avoid this 24% tax hike that would have happened if the 2017 tax cuts were set to expire, which would have been in December, I believe. There's also a $6,000 there's also, y'all mentioned the tax on tips. There's a new deduction on tips, overtime, and auto loans. There's a $6,000 deduction for older adults who earn less than $75K. That's kind of a nod to Trump's whole no taxes on Social Security deal. Overall, the Congressional Budget Office says that wealthier households will probably see an average of around $12,000 less in taxes, while middle-income people between $500 and $1,500. So what it's worth, that's how it may impact your pocketbook. There's a lot there. Do not get me wrong. Where it does kind of get a bit iffy for Mississippi is when you start to dive into the health care side of this. I don't know how much you've looked into it, Richard. It may have been you who spoke with the Hospital Association last week. One of the shows did.
I think that was Gerard.
Yeah, and really the topic at hand was, with all of these tax cuts, how are you going to offset it? Under this bill, they're trying to do that with $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and other health policy changes. Number one, I want to say the health care stuff probably won't be felt to the fullest until late 2026, early 2027, but it could result in 118,000 Mississippians losing government-provided insurance. It also could result in hospitals having to face major funding gaps. I mean, those concerns, they go back to the state-directed program rate and how it all changes. I don't have a crystal ball here, but it could end up being millions that hospitals have to pay. And we already know the situation here in the state. A lot of them aren't doing that great. So the healthcare side of it could impact Mississippi.
Yeah.
The SNAP benefits.
And there are other southern states and other rural states that are facing similar things. Rural health care has been an issue for a long time. And it's part of what the conversation was in the legislature this year, right? About we've got to wait and see what D.C. does in terms of funding and whether or not Mississippi is going to be on the hook for federal dollars that are lost.
I'm glad you bring that up because the states that opted into Medicaid expansion are going to lose a lot of that federal funding.
Correct.
Mississippi does not have to worry about that. But what Mississippi does have to worry about is everything else we just talked about. Yeah. So the impact will still be felt, but not opting into Medicaid expansion, for better or worse when it comes to how many people have insurance, saves some money. It should, at least, from how I look at it on paper. SNAP benefits. I'm also very intrigued to see how that impacts us here in the Magnolia State, because you have about 385,000 Mississippians who take advantage of these food stamps. And I think the goal of Republicans in Congress is to get the states to pay for more of this. Right now, the feds pay for pretty much the entire benefit package. There's a point in there where if your program error rate reaches 6%, you have to pay as a state. So there are a lot of moving parts in what President Trump calls the one big beautiful bill. All in all, I really do encourage people to go read that article. I can send it to you on the text line if you want it. Just send over a text. Whether positive or negative or however you want to consider it, there's a lot and it could impact you.
There you go. We'll wrap things up with JT Mitchell on the other side of this timeout. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on the start of a new week. Back right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
She traveled all around, all across this country.
You got the dream of owning land? Perhaps investing in land? Maybe it's a big place where you make the hunting rules. Maybe it's a smaller tract where you want to build your dream home or just a cabin for a weekend getaway. Maybe you recognize that land is a great investment because they're not making any more. Let me tell you about my friends at David Fisher Land Company. David Fisher Land Company is based in Inverness, right there in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, but they service all of Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. David Fisher Land Company has 40 years of experience in farm and recreational land brokerage, land appraisals, and farmland management. Whether you're looking for 100 acres or several thousand acres or an equity share in a hunting club from DeSoto County to the South Delta, David Fisher Land Company is ready to earn your business. With customers across the Southeast, David Fisher Land Company is the perfect choice for the property you want or need to sell. I could give you their phone number and their email address, but let's be honest, you're not going to remember that. But you can remember this, their website, davidfisherland.com. That's davidfisherland.com. Reach out to David, Jack, or Travis. They'd love to help you with your land needs. And do us a favor. Tell us that you heard about them on Mornings with Richard Cross. David Fisher Land Company, davidfisherland.com. Just a couple of minutes left with our good friend JT Mitchell from the Super Talk Mississippi News Team. We are 8 days away from Major League Baseball's All-Star Game. We got a little Mississippi flavor in the Midsummer Classic.
We do. We have two players with Magnolia State ties. Garrett Crochet, I know for your favorite team, the Boston Red Sox, Richard.
I believe he pitched at the University of Tennessee, did he not?
He did. He also at Ocean Springs High School.
There you go.
He'll be making his second consecutive All-Star game, and he's a beast. I mean, he is so good. He's 9-4, a 2.39 earned run average, 151 strikeouts at the halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
He's very good, very well.
He's a dude.
He is. And then somebody who I know the Mississippi State fans love is Brent Rooker. He got snubbed a year ago, but he's back at the Midsummer Classic, and he's having another year. I think he's on pace for his third consecutive 30-home run season. I'd love to see him in the Home Run Derby. I don't know if he's going to get that. Right now, he's not in the field, but they always add some people late, so might as well throw him in there. That'd be a lot of fun to watch. So, yeah, you're going to have some Mississippians to watch on July 15th. That's when the All-Star Game is. And if you want to watch a little bit early, on July 12th will be the Futures Game.
Yep.
And you have Jackson Prep alum Connor Griffin, and then you have Madison Central alum Braden Montgomery. They're both dominating in minor league ball. and they'll get a chance to show why they need to be on a Major League squad sooner than later on July 12th.
Hey, Lance, are these numbers any good in the big leagues? Brent Rooker hitting .271 with 18 bombs, 48 driven in, and an .834 OPS.
Oh, I loved watching that guy in college, even though he was on the other team. But he ate up on Mrs. Lunch, and that boy can hit some bombs, man. That'll play. That'll play.
He has found a home with the Athletics. They're no longer the Oakland Athletics, just the Athletics.
They don't have a city.
That is
the traveling Wilburys of baseball. Yeah.
They are. Where do they play? They play in Sacramento?
Sacramento this year. They're headed to Vegas here in a couple of seasons.
So,
let's see. Rooker made his big league debut in 2020. He played in 16 games through 3 seasons at the big league level. Last 3 years, 23, 24, 25. He has played in 137, 145, and 92 games.
And done it
Pretty
well.
Darn good.
Pretty good.
No doubt.
Hey, and if you want some distant Mississippi connections, Mississippi State fans might remember James Wood. He was supposed to come play for the Bulldogs, and he's so good. But he was so good at the time that he just went straight to the pros. And he's now with the Nats. He'll be in the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game. And then former Mississippi Braves Max Fried with your Yankees and Ronald Acuna Jr. with the Braves will also be part of the Midsummer Classic.
Very cool. Got a message on the C-Spire text line from our buddy Andre. It said World Class Paints did all the paint and stencils for the All-Star Game, which is going to be in Atlanta coming up next week. A week from tomorrow, Tuesday for the All-Star Game, Home Run Derby Monday night, Futures game before that. So very cool. Love seeing those Mississippi companies successful on a great big old scale. Anything else? What are you guys watching this week?
Well, we're watching everything, honestly. We're waiting for a lot to come in. But last week was a busy week. We had all the mayors and city leaders get sworn in.
Yep.
I encourage people to go to supertalk.fm. I sound like a broken record player, but we're covering everything statewide. So if you have a new mayor in your city, we're covering. And we now enter these new terms with new faces and some old faces.
That's right.
In office.
Choctaw Indian Fair begins on Tuesday of this week. Neshoba County Fair just around the corner. Palmer Home Radiothon coming up on Thursday. There is no shortage of stuff that is going on. Thanks, JT.
Thanks, Richard.
We will talk to you next Monday. Lance, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning when we re-rack it and do this thing again. Have a great Monday, buddy.
Man, you two have a good one. I'm glad you're back. Get the rest of that yard work done.
Yeah, it never ends. As soon as you finish, you got to start all over again. Mornings with Richard Cross. We hope you have a spectacular Monday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.